Hey everyone, welcome back to Weather on the Go. All your weather coverage on this wonderful Wednesday, July 17th. And make sure again to like the video down below by giving it a thumbs up. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. And of course, subscribe to the channel if you do want daily weather forecast information right here at your fingertips. So let's get into today's weather forecast. We're going to be talking about some cool downs across the eastern United States, but a heat up across the west, more severe weather, and your tropical weather update at the end of the video. So let's dive right in here. Today we have a ridge of high pressure. It's been over here across the desert southwest, but it's really starting to flex its muscles further north as we go through the day. Look at the dip in the jet stream further across the east. That's a trough, and that is bringing much delightful air across portions of the eastern U.S. and much cooler air as well. Notice the heat headlines aren't as widespread over here because we are seeing cooler temperatures. So we have some heat advisories though near the coastline there of portions of the Gulf Coast and up the New England and mid-Atlantic coast as well. And southern Florida, we still have those as we go over the next 24 to 48 hours. Meanwhile, out west, we are gearing up for some more extreme heat across Southern California, Nevada, and Arizona. Even parts of the Pacific Northwest, we have excessive heat watches, warnings, even some red flag warnings out that way as well. So let's look at the high temperatures this afternoon and look in the wake of the cold front that moved through earlier on this week into the upper Midwest, Great Lakes, Northeast. We are well into the 60s, but into the 70s and a lot more cooler air as well. Further to the south, temperatures are in the 80s, 90s, and some triple digits. And then out west, it's all about the heat out there. And look at the dew points. Very importantly here, yes, you're in the 70s this time of year in the upper Midwest, but the dew points are in the low and mid 50s. So a nice refreshing air mass with lowering humidity. Dew points further south ahead of that cold front into the 70s. That's a tropical air mass, and that's air you can wear. So you can see those heat index values back up to 105, 110 degrees perhaps Fahrenheit across the deep south, up the southeast coast, the mid-Atlantic coast, and in the New England coast here. And then further north, we don't have a heat index because the dew points are low and the temperatures are low, and then out west it's all about the heat as well. Now, a lot of this heat has been leading to more severe weather. We did see another bout of severe weather all across the country, in the Central Plains yesterday and across the Northeast, New York State again, into Massachusetts, up here into New Jersey and southeastern Pennsylvania, the Poconos region, back down here into the southeast. A lot of these blues, those are wind reports. We had 323 wind reports yesterday, 3 tornadoes reported, 1 in central Nebraska and 2 just outside of the St. Louis area as well, and some hail reports for a total of 340 severe weather reports all told from yesterday. And when you combine July 13th through July 16th here of 2024, these are the preliminary storm reports during that stretch: 1,156 wind reports, 125 hail reports, and 20 tornado reports as well. So that tornado number has gone up significantly with more of those surveys that have been out there. Going through today, here is the placement of that cold front from the eastern Ohio Valley down here toward portions of the Mid-South and the Red River Valley into the southern plains. And ahead of that, that's where all the heat is, and that's where we're going to be building some of that storm energy. So there's a level 2 out of 5 on the risk scale here in the yellow across the New England region, down into the Delmarva and the Mid-Atlantic coastlines. That is a slight risk of severe weather. Marginal risk level 1 out of 5 in the dark greens down here as well. Also another area from Dallas, Fort Worth to Little Rock, and then across the Front Range where we do have to watch out for some stronger storms. The main threat here is going to be 60, perhaps 70 mile per hour winds, but the hail threat is pretty low all across the board. Maybe some quarter-size hailstones on the Front Range there, and the tornado threat is less than 2% all across the country, so that is certainly some good news. Let's time this out. Going into mid-afternoon, this is 3 o'clock, and you can see storms starting to gain intensity and coverage out there from the northeast down into the mid-Atlantic here and the deep south. We'll continue to see that coverage expand with peak daytime heating through the evening. This is dinner time frame at 6 o'clock. And then as we go into 9 o'clock, as we lose the daytime heating and the sun starts to go down, we're going to start to lose some of the intensity and the coverage of those storms. Maybe a little bit of a cluster of storms down here into the Texas region, into southern Arkansas as we go into this evening, and then that'll continue into the midnight time frame on Thursday morning. But notice overall, the coverage and intensity of the storms will wane deeper into the evening and overnight that we go. They will be dropping some heavy rainfall, so don't be surprised for some locally torrential downpours out there from the northeast down into the southeast here and the deep south. And even the front range, we could be seeing some widespread rainfall amounts of at least a half inch to an inch. Some localized areas up to 2 or 3 inches will be possible through your Thursday morning commute. And a couple of areas here where we have a slight risk for some flash flooding, one up here into the Delmarva region, one down here in the mid-south, and then another one into northeastern New Mexico where it's been pretty dry, so a lot of runoff with any heavy downpours as we go into Thursday. Thursday, the placement of that boundary is a little further south, high pressure working in, lots of sunshine up here into the northern U.S., into the Midwest, Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, so definitely enjoy the sunshine and the cooler temperatures and lower humidity up there. And then we're going to see that cold front make its way into the northern Gulf as we go into Friday afternoon. So here are your high temperatures tomorrow on Thursday afternoon. Look at that, 70s and 80s all the way down here into the deep south. A lot of heat out west as we go into Thursday afternoon. Some of that heat tries to move east toward the plains as we go into Friday afternoon. That could, move temperatures up into the 80s and 90s briefly for Friday afternoon, but still hanging on to those 70s and some 80s out there across the eastern U.S. Of course, yes, you're in Florida this time of year. It's late July. You're still going to see 90s out there, but a lot less humidity as we go into Friday. Thursday, there is a couple of areas of isolated severe storm opportunities. One from portions of southeastern Virginia down into the Carolinas. Another one again on the front range here into the western Great Plains. And you can see pretty isolated storm coverage as we go into Thursday and Thursday night. So we're not overly concerned about any, mesoscale convective systems or anything terribly widespread or intense as we go into Thursday. Just some isolated strong to severe storms. Friday, marginal risk level 1 out of 5 up here into South Dakota, Nebraska, and parts of surrounding states as well. We'll be keeping an eye on that. But overall, it looks like during the day on Friday, pretty isolated activity during the day. Maybe a mesoscale convective system or at least a cluster of storms trying to get going there in parts of South Dakota and Nebraska, northern Kansas as we go into Friday night with that low-level jet starting to increase. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe an upgrade to a slight risk on Friday is warranted, but we'll have to wait and see on that. Here are the overall rainfall totals going through the Saturday, July 20th timeframe to open up the weekend, and the heaviest will be across the eastern Carolinas, where parts there of the coastal Carolinas could even see upwards of 6 inches worth of rain, and then across Dixie Alley here down towards the I-35 corridor and east into eastern Texas could be seeing a couple inches of rain, and then a couple inches of rain as well across the Front Range and into the Central Plains as we go in through the weekend there. And you can see very dry out west, very dry up north here. We need the break up north. A lot of rivers are flooding right now and some saturated soils, but here are the potential for flash flooding on Thursday. It's across the deep south and the southeast, and that continues into Friday as well. A couple marginal slight risk areas there of some flash flooding potential. Going into the weekend, Saturday, July 20th and Sunday, July 21st, the third weekend of July, we have a trough across the middle of the country that will help to usher in a nice, cool Canadian air mass from the north. We have a ridge across the west that's going to be building across the west and even western Canada as well. British Columbia, Alberta, Saskatchewan, even parts of western Manitoba starting to heat up there as we go into the weekend. You can see temperatures there 25 degrees above normal up into the western Canadian prairies, whereas we could be seeing 20 degrees below normal in the central and eastern U.S. with our temperatures this weekend. High temperatures Saturday afternoon, much like we see today and tomorrow, a lot of 70s and 80s across the east, a lot of heat out west, and that continues as we go. Look at into Sunday morning, folks. Look how widespread our refreshing air will be. A lot of us in the U.S. will be waking up to temperatures in the 60s and some comfortable 70s out there, and then we could see temperatures arriving into the 70s and 80s again on Sunday afternoon across the east, and a lot of triple digits, even up into Washington State, the Cascades, as we go into Sunday afternoon. Looking at precipitation through the weekend, on Saturday, some isolated storm coverage across the plains, more concentrated activity across the southeast coast here near that front, and then that will continue as we go into Sunday, and a lot of the same same areas. So out west dry, across the north, like the upper Midwest, the Great Lakes, Ohio Valley, and parts of the Mid-Atlantic should stay mostly dry as we go into the weekend. You can see where the rainfall will be. The heaviest rains there across the eastern plains or across the southeast here, where we could be getting some soaking downpours, and we need it across this region. A lot of these areas here in the Carolinas and Virginia and Georgia and Alabama, they have that moderate and severe drought, even a pocket of extreme drought trying to develop here into the Carolinas. So we need the rainfall and moisture, and we certainly will get it. Heading into next week, Monday, July 22nd and Friday, July 26th, that trough will continue to deepen across the middle of the country, bringing well below normal temperatures, not even just across the north, but even down here into the Red River Valley as we go into next week. An amplifying ridge out west will ensure our temperatures will be warming up in a big way out west. A lot of active weather down here, especially for Texas Hill Country and across the deep south and the southeast. That could extend up into the Mid-Atlantic. Drier across the north there into the northern Rockies, northern plains like the Dakotas and the panhandle of Nebraska as we go through next week. Here is the rainfall totals, and you can see coastal Texas, the Rio Grande Valley, all the way down here through Dixie Alley, the southeast up toward the Mid-Atlantic. That is the swath where we could be seeing those oranges and reds. That's 2 to 4 inches or more of rain locally in those areas. Some rain outside of that at times for the Ohio Valley, the Central Plains, or the Desert Southwest, but few and far between. Otherwise, the main active storm track will be over the top of that ridge in central Canada. Otherwise, we're being dry out west as we go into next week. National Hurricane Center in Miami, Florida doesn't have any investigative areas of tropical concern over the next week here in the tropical Atlantic basin. And the reason why is the Saharan dust is very widespread, very intense across this area, very thick here across the main development region and in toward the Windward Islands today. Some of that dust will thin out a little bit, but will be crashing into the Greater Antilles and the Bahamas as we go into the end of the week on Friday, July 19th. And then as we go into Sunday, July 21st to end the weekend, some of that dust kind of thins out, but still a lot of dry air there across most of the tropical Atlantic. The waters are starting to warm back up, even after Beryl here. And remember, Beryl was a Category 5 in the Eastern Caribbean, made landfall there and toward portions of Jamaica and then the Yucatan and then Texas. And notice into the Western Gulf, we're starting to warm back up again as well. And that is the last place Beryl took place with the landfall. So we're starting to warm up our sea surface temperatures, and we're starting to warm up the main development region. So that means we're getting ready for late July and August for our hurricane season. And remember, the hurricane season really hasn't begun in earnest yet until really the second half of August. So we still have a long way to go climatologically for the hurricane season. And the Climate Prediction Center, the experts over there, are actually favoring the end of July, but more so that first week in August here, from August 1st through August 6th or 7th, and probably even beyond that, for some tropical activity trying to brew up there from the main development region into the Caribbean or even the tropical Bahamas region. We'll have to keep an eye on that. But at the same time, the Eastern Pacific Ocean could be starting to act up as well. So we could be watching both the tropical Pacific and the tropical Atlantic, and we'll do that right here for you on this channel. So to break down the weather forecast, some severe weather possible through the weekend, a long duration cool down across the eastern U.S. Definitely get out and enjoy it here. And tropics may be active again as we go into early August, especially that first and second week. We'll be tracking it right here for you on this channel. Thank you all for watching. Make sure to subscribe to the channel down below if you haven't already. Make sure to give the video a like with a thumbs up down below. Leave any comments, questions, and concerns below. We'll get to those later on today, and I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of their Wednesday out there.